You're tuned into the Visibility Strategy live stream with Amy Nubson and Christina Vidovich, where strategy meets storytelling and confidence takes the spotlight. Join us every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern as we help you set sail on your visibility journey. From the inner work that fuels your message to showing up powerfully on social media and on stage, we're here to help you optimize your presence, amplify your impact, and elevate your visibility. And there we are. Well, good morning, Amy.
Good morning. Great morning it is. And I'm excited for our topic today.
Oh, yes. Yes. It is how to be a guest on a podcast. And there's a lot of little things that we don't always think about beyond just the lighting and the microphone. But those are two important things. So let's start there.
Exactly. I know I get a lot of comments about my mic, and it's like, it's really quite simple. It's on an arm, so I move it up when it's not in front of me. It's not taking up desk space, but it also it has like a shock absorber. Your mic is really important for the sound. And I would highly recommend getting something, even a snowball or something like that, that is always helpful for sound. How about you, Christina? What do you think?
Well, I heard a very interesting thing when I started podcasting, that it is the person's earphones that are going to make the difference. So if you do not have the money to invest in a microphone, it's okay. Because some people might have the $7 earphones where everything sounds fuzzy, and the other people are going to have the JBL and the Bose that they're going to be listening to it intently, and they're going to hear every in your speech.
Yeah.
If you don't have the cover on the mic. So it really is a difference. So to me, when you're first getting started, just get started.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I just did a great example, like the S's, be very careful of how you say that. I did mine too long. And I try to be very aware of how I do those sharp S's because they can come and pop in people's earbuds. So those are really interesting things to pay attention to as a guest or just as a speaker.
Correct. Because the other one from the singing perspective that I learned is be careful to don't pop your P's.
Yeah.
Because your mouth, and it pushes that air into the mic, and suddenly, I got that whole whisk in there. But yeah, the S also, because I can hear it. And I'm going to give you an example, because you might not unhear it once you hear what I say. Kelly Clarkson has a lisp in her S's, and I can hear it every time she sings. She can belt, okay, like a diva, but those S's, I hear every lisp in there. And, but it is something to be aware of when we're practicing our speech patterns as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, it's amazing. Just listening to yourself, you hear different things that you don't catch while you're not hearing the audio back. And as uncomfortable it is to listen to yourself back, it teaches you a lot about your speech patterns.
Yes.
What words you use frequently, how you put them together. I remember I learned so much about editing my own podcast back in the day in 2019. I was like, wow, I really have a very distinct pattern of how I speak. And so I had to be more consciously aware of that because I wanted to elevate it. It wasn't anything wrong with it, but I wanted to elevate it to something different. But I had to be aware of it first.
Mm-hmm. And I know this is actually more on our speaking days, but the intentional pause. Allow yourself to think for a moment without having to fill the air with,
Or our favorite, so.
Exactly.
And it's a great thing as a podcast guest as well. Like, take breaks in your speech so the guest can interact with you. But if you talk nonstop for 5-10 minutes, which I've had guests do that, you can't, ask a question or like before you know it, you're way off on something different because in 5 minutes you can cover a lot of information. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, so as a guest, you're trying to keep all of that in your mind, like, okay, I want to come back to that. But now we're over here, and now I have to think of like asking these questions and bringing the conversation back and remembering all that in the moment. So take pauses, shorter answers, take a pause to think about it. We're okay with that.
Absolutely. I had one guest who was on the same stream of thought for 20 minutes. And it was a beautiful story, and it was a beautiful string. And she answered the question around 18. So it was the last 2 minutes where I actually got the answer to the question. And I understand she had to get there, but it was so fascinating to me to just watch this process versus just kind of, well, we can infer some of those things if we can get to the meat first and allow me as the host to say, "Oh, well, what was the beginning of that story? Because that sounds like a really interesting answer." And have a conversation, just like you said, allow your host to do their job in the interview. The other one is being careful of not to give the short answer.
Yeah, that was a great time. And
Yes.
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 Yeah, there's a delicate balance with the right amount of time that you take for the answers. And sometimes I've done it in the past too. When I've answered it, I'll finish answering my question, ask the host to get a question back. Like this is how I handle it. How did you handle something like this? So I get to learn about the host. The audience gets to learn about the host. It's a really great way to engage that conversation back and forth versus it being all about the guest and the entire episode.
Yeah, it's true, and I agree with that because as the guest or as the host, oftentimes it is pulling out that answer and going, "Okay, yeah, I can relate to that because, what I know as a host, sometimes I don't want to make this all about me, but it can give a nice bridge back into the conversation and make it more conversational without feeling so hardcore interview." And it's interesting because I've had discussions about that with other hosts of going, how do we make this not sound like a news channel interview?
Yes. Exactly, because we really wanna be able to get to the deeper conversations, but when we talk for a long period of time as a guest, we don't get to the heart of what we're trying to get to as a host. And the idea too, sometimes if you're like, "I don't know how to answer that," that's, like, going through in your mind, you can say that, I'm like, "I'm not really sure how to answer that." The host will reframe the question
Mhm.
or re-guide the conversation.
Exactly, that's our job as the host, and on the other side, the editing room can take care of those pieces, so that's not even to worry about. You can ask the host. Absolutely, that's a great tip, Amy, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, and the same thing is you could say, "I'm not comfortable answering that." That's another one you can totally say. S those even when they're live, you can say that
Yeah,
because we all are in control of what we are willing to answer and what we're not willing to answer.
yes,
And the host will not be offended if you're like, "Nope," unless you're doing like a 60-minute thing. This is totally different. This is conversation growth acknowledgement for most podcasts. So it's okay
yeah.
to say that.
Yeah, absolutely, and, you know, being in the Washington, DC area, we learn how to deflect. So, if it's a question that you don't wanna answer the question that you want to answer. that's similar in topic without having to be direct, because if you're oftentimes your host will pick that up too. If they can sense there's a little change in the body language or things like that, the subtle signals that we're giving away, and then to be respectful, because hosts aren't out to make you look bad. They want you to look fabulous because you're on their show and they're spotlighting you. It is your place to shine. And I even know for myself, there are places that, well, I'm not going to dig into from a host or from a guest point of, and just being able to say, okay, this is, you know, maybe this is a little too personal. I'm going to change this to back to the professional side. So I think also from that point, when you know you're getting ready to be guesting, of what topics are you ready to talk about? How much without getting into it? Because again, it's a short interview. What is it
Mhm.
that you want to be remembered for? What is that piece? Because it's going to be evergreen. It's going to be out there for people to listen to. So be careful not to call things out that are gonna be stuck in the universe.
Exactly, and you bring up a great point. If there's something you really wanna talk about, email it to the host ahead of time, so they have some information or your boundaries that you have. "I don't wanna talk about my family. I don't wanna do" like, if you have certain no topic zones, we'll call them, let them know that,
Yeah,
because you're doing research on the host and the show, and they're doing research on you.
yeah,
So it's that partnership that shows up to the table for that podcast.
yes, and I will give another example to that is I was interviewing a woman who is a divorce coach. She's actually a financial divorce coach who was going through divorce. That was not an easy topic for her to talk about, so I noticed it right away that she was getting uncomfortable about it, so as the host, I honored that place and switched back to her clients and not to her as a personal journey because she wasn't ready to speak about that. So, yes, you can absolutely let y your host know because it's a safe space. It's a safe space when you talk directly, and nobody's gonna know unless you step up and say something to them that,
Mhm.
"Oh, I will stay away from that." Absolutely will honor those conversations without a doubt. Yeah.
Well, and I loved being a guest on your show, Christina, because you gave me a list of like trigger words for you. And I was like, thank you. This is really helpful. So I had that in my back of my mind. And if it was a situation came up where it had involved that those trigger words, I'm like, how else can I say it? Because it was a respect thing to the host. I'm like, okay. Because again, it's that partnership. But I would have never known that if you hadn't given me that documentation.
Yeah.
And it was just a small section in it. I was like, "Oh, okay, I can do that."
To your point, being a good guest is reading the notes that your host sends you. Taking that moment because one of the things, and I think because I've watched podcasts, I've had to edit out when people grab the mug and then they drink. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, we're live streaming now. Can't edit that out." It's not a Zoom call.
Yep.
And that's the difference, now, especially with the live streaming, we're in this moment. So take the time to read the notes that your host, they have taken their time to put you on their schedule. They're not getting paid to put you on their podcast. They're doing things because they want to invite you as a guest. So honor that and read the notes. And we'll get back to more of that right after this intermission about our visibility accountability group that happens every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And tonight's topic will be more about podcast.
Share your story, own your name, step in the light, ignite your flame, show up, shine out, it's time to be heard, flip fear into power with every word, visibility, accountability, we rise.
there we are. Yes.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like a podcast, if you think about it, most people focus either on the podcast itself, but there's a three-part section of being a guest or a podcast host, right? It's the prepping before, it's the actual guest, being the actually alive on the call. Sometimes, and then if you're a host, you have the production. But then there's also the advertising side of things. So there are so many different elements of a podcast that sometimes as a guest, I've seen it too, where people just pop on and go, great, this is fun, and walk away. And it's like, but we need your assistance.
Yeah.
It's, first reading those notes, making sure, because I did read that too on your notes and like, do not have water, do not drink water while you're on the call. I'm like, okay, I have it next to me all the time in case I start coughing or something. Of course, those are moments where you kind of need the water, but I don't drink it during the call, right?
Exactly. It's just a small gesture, and again, this is something drilled into me even from sitting in front rows of classrooms. It's when you're paying attention to your professor. It's those little things that give signals to the person that you're interacting with. And yeah, of course, we all have it right there in the just in case, because we can pop you off screen if we need to, if you start choking and calling 911. No.
Let's hope that never happens.
Exactly.
But yes, you never know what will happen. It's winter right now, so it could be dry, But the idea is to your point, is to read those notes, because every host has something different and they have different guidelines. Some love to give you questions ahead of time. And they are very, like they will ask those questions. And there are some that are like, nope, it's just a free conversation. Just jump on and we will just go with it.
Yeah.
So you have both. And remember, your guests can be very anxious with different types of styles too. So when you're engaging your guest, let them know your style, because it might make a difference if they're comfortable coming on as a guest or not.
Absolutely. And here is, from a good guesting point, take a moment and listen. Listen to the podcast you're about to be on. If you're not already subscribed, you need to subscribe. That is the number one thing you need to do when somebody asks you. Go take a listen. If you're going to be a guest, you need to subscribe on their platforms. All of them. If they're going to be putting you on YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube. If they're putting you on Spotify and Apple, make sure. Honor that. And the fun thing is, it comes in your feed and you get to put it back up. And like you just mentioned, the advertising. So you have this opportunity to be out in the world, a full production that somebody else is doing for you. Hello, this is like going into Hollywood and I want to be in my own movie. Well, guess what? We're going to spotlight you right here on camera and have an interview with you, Hollywood style. And all you did was show up.
Yeah.
So now it's your job to be that PR person for yourself and to help them elevate what they're doing.
Yes. And it's really a lot of, it's really not too hard. And the other thing I know as a guest, one thing that drives me a little bit nutty, because I'm a guest a lot, is not knowing the schedule. Like I would help a lot more, but then they're like, I find out like 3 weeks later that I posted, got no email, no communication. I was just like, oh, okay. If you want the help and promotion, you need to communicate with your guests.
Yes.
And when you do that first recording, if you have no idea, just let them know and just say 2 weeks prior to, I will let you know when it'll launch. And here's kind of my expectations for what I would love you to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's really important for the host to let people know that. And as a guest to go, okay, so when I get that, I have 2 weeks, I have about a week to get that out because I'm going to do a little promotion. And then what am I going to do afterwards? It's just nice, but you have to let your guests know.
It's true. Which we'll make that another episode about the little things about when you're beginning your podcast, the host, because it can be a lot of work. And even as a guest, I've had a number of guests saying, should I get into podcasting? So I definitely think we're going to have another episode about that. Another thing I wanna mention in a small thing is match your host. What do I mean by that? If your host is sitting in the screen, match their head. Don't
Yep.
be too close and don't be too far. Match your host. It's okay to say, "Oh, wait a minute, I need to get a book to lift up my camera." Do it. We want
Yes.
to be as close to eye level as possible. We don't wanna be looking up your nose because your laptop is down below. We want to match, and I mean, how many times, and I'm gonna just do it, that I've seen people like this, and I'm like, "Oh, man." Yeah.
I had a driver's license that looked like that. It was horrible. So why would we want that to be on video?
And for those of you who are listening, I just went back down to my eyeballs. So
Yeah, I looked like a turtle for, oh, what, 3 years? So it's not one of those things that are pleasant. I know we're shy to be on camera, but yes, match your host. I have my monitor is on like a piece of board that I could slide back and forth to get more of the should I be closer, should I be farther away to kind of match the host where I'm at. Because remember, even though me and Christina get on all the time, we might be in a different space. So I'm paying attention, I actually slid it closer to me just before the call. I'm like, okay, easy, done, seconds.
Yes, exactly, and you can find something in the room. Then again, no one's gonna matter if you're starting just a second late because you need to make some adjustments.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do when I'm doing a podcast, I've done podcast guests when I'm in an Airbnb, right? And so you don't have all your equipment, you don't have anything. I find they usually have some kind of like picture book or some kind of like book. So I'll stack books and then put my monitor on that.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing. There's always a book around.
There's always, and I have when I am not in my office space and that I'm going around looking, there's times when I've done it on the side table with the lamp sitting on the floor. Just change the background. And voila, you are in the space. And that's another good little trick too, is if like this platform, they have their own pictures that you can change for your background, but having that picture ready if you need to change your background, if you're not in your usual space and you wanna just like, "Oh, I need to change that." So, one of the things as a host is I give people the link to the platform going, "Okay, we're going live stream, so go play with it for a moment." Some of them I know don't have that, like, when I get called on a StreamYard, I've gotta get my background right, but other times I can change that, and so it doesn't matter if I have to sit on the floor with the book with the lamp.
Right? And that's the thing too is I hear so many people like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry for my dog." I'm like, "I can't hear it." Our mics are so good that most of the time we can't hear the background noise. Only you can. And it's bothering you and it's usually it's okay.
Yeah,
And the host will say something like, "Ooh, your dog is really angry." Then the host can hear you or something like that. But typically we can't hear the background noises
yeah,
at all. And if you're really worried about it, best way to do audio when you have no other equipment, you can do it in a closet. Your closed closet is the best place if you have a walk-in closet to sit on the floor or whatever, make a little tiny desk, whatever in there, and then change your background because the clothes will absorb all the extra noise.
yes, yes, and even if your host is videoing you for an audio podcast, still be prepared because they might use the clips for their shorts. There might be that picture of the 2 of you together. So, to your point is, yeah, that's a great space, and you can change your background so they don't know
Right?
you're sitting there. Yes, absolutely. And lighting.
Mhm.
Again, it's one of those things, get started. If you can sit next to a window and have the light coming in, that is the best lighting out there, is the natural sun. And you can pick up inexpensive lights that are 5 to $10. I'm gonna actually put that on, my website of going, here's some basic things that you can get to help you get started that, will help you. Because again, if you're filming at night, of course, you're not going to get the beautiful sunlight, but in making sure that you are not that overhead light, that's the harshest light. You want something to your face and even a little bit under sometimes so we don't get the weird shadows.
Yeah.
It's
And you don't want them from the sides. And that's my problem right now. I'm like, my challenge is always trying to get it from the front, but I'm dark in the background, but my face is lit up.
Yes.
So that works. I mean, it's not perfect background lighting, but what matters is the face and being able to see the person you're talking to. So I just have a little ring light on my camera.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And then I don't even have lights on in this room right now. So, because like I said, I get really harsh shadows from it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you look at some of the more professional setups, oftentimes it's just super soft lighting in the background anyway, because the way that your lighting is with your blurred background is perfect because where's my eye focusing? On you. And that's where it should be, right?
Exactly. And the idea is too not to have super busy backgrounds. Bookshelves are fine because, books are always an interesting thing, but don't have a lot of clutter behind you. Because again, we want that focus on you. So as a guest, it does take a little bit of time. And I used to have to rearrange my background. And now I'm like, well, I'll just make it permanent. So it's easier, but sometimes we're not in a location where we can.
Yeah, exactly. So, Amy, what is your favorite thing to do to honor your hosts when you're been a guest on a podcast?
I love asking them questions because I'm just as curious about them as they are about me. Because I think it's a respect thing too, where it's, or I want to know in a situation if we're similar or we're different, or if it's a topic that we both get excited about. I notice I pay attention to the body language of my host, and I'm like, ooh, that's something they're really passionate about. And then I'll ask a question because it's like our conversation could go so much deeper, so much more interesting. But I'm watching also the visual cues of my host as well.
Yes. That's such an important thing. It's a conversation, and it's remembering that it's a two-way conversation. It's interesting because people get confused with that word interview. We think it's one way, whether it's a job interview or a podcast interview. It is a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
There's just one person's asking more questions than the other.
Right. And it's more like who leads the conversation, right? And usually you have an agenda as the person that's being the interviewee. But it does not mean that you can't flow the conversation as a guest.
Yes, absolutely.
What about you, Christina? What is your favorite thing about being a guest?
There's a few things. I love to see the finished product. I love to see what someone has come up with from that moment of the interview, and having that chance to see it or listen to it afterwards. Again, honoring the numbers that they're looking for to show that, yes, your podcast episode has been watched or listened to. But also looking in my circle and saying, who do I think would be a great guest for them? Who can I refer to my host also? So that is one of my favorite things to do, of going, oh, I love this person, what their message is. I think you'd be good for this. So that's one of the things I love to do.
Yes, I agree. That's where it's fun, because when we start connecting our network, we get other women visible, right? Or other people visible. And that is a really great thing, because as a host, I'm sure you love getting referrals, because if that was a good guest, usually the referral is a good guest.
Yes. Yes. And it goes round and round like that. And guess what? We're going to talk about that more in our visibility accountability Thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you next time. I'm Christina,
And I'm Amy.
and thank you for joining for this visibility strategy.
Share your story, own your name, step in the light, ignite your flame, show up, shine out, it's time to be heard, flip fear into power with every